Are we ready? Hi, this is John Noser. This is Board Game Geek TV. We're here at Gen Con 2014. I'm sitting next to David Carl from Privateer Press, and we are looking at High Command Faith and Fortune.
So High Command was released last year. We have Warmachine High Command. It had 4 different factions in it. Hordes High Command had 4 more factions in it. Now this year we've got Faith and Fortune, which has 4 more factions for people to play.
I was going to guess, but I didn't want to assume.
You would have been right on the money.
Okay.
High Command is a deck building game.
Okay.
But it has several twists.
Let's show everybody the box here.
Yep, it's set up with all the different rows as people who've played a lot of deck building games are used to. In this particular one, though, you don't have a fixed market that everybody shares.
Okay.
Each market is by faction.
Okay, that makes sense.
For a faction that has lots of fast troops and has lots of lower armor, it'll have a very different feel than a faction that's more slow and steady. Factions that are more elite versus factions that have more plentiful options out there. So the way it works is you'll choose one of the factions and you'll look at their warcasters. And we've got 5 different ones in the box for each of the 4 factions. And you'll choose 3 of the casters. And those determine what your color options are. And each color has different
so this would
strengths
be
and weaknesses.
Orange and purple, yellow and green, orange and red. Okay.
And one of the things we started doing is adding the letters, because we had some notes that people who are colorblind had difficulty with them. So that's now clearly marked on the cards. And so you choose the 3 you want. We'll choose these 3.
Okay.
And for each one of those, you'll choose a color. And you'll just pull those colors out of the box. So we'll choose green or yellow for this guy.
So let's grab the yellow cards.
Yep. Blue for this one.
Blue cards.
And red for the last one here.
So there's a lot of customization in the factions, because not only are you choose which characters, you're then choosing which colors, because this guy could be blue or purple.
Correct.
Now, you couldn't double up on blue since both of these are blue.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And each of the detachments, which are what we call the colors, have 12 cards in them. So these 12 cards get shuffled up and they become your market.
Okay.
So every time you play, even if you play the same faction, you can play different warcasters, you can play different colors, and that's going to create a different market for you. So there's a lot of replayability straight out of the box.
Cool.
And the market works much like it does in other games. You have the 4 cards that you set out, and those cards are what you can buy with your resources. At the start of the game, you really just have some very basic resource cards.
And this would be what's in your deck or in your hand or something like that.
Yep, this is what you start with at the very beginning of the game. As you draw these cards, you'll then use them with the command and war written up here to purchase these other cards.
Okay.
And so then they go into your discard pile, they get shuffled back into your deck. And just like in other deck building games, over the course of the game, your deck's going to get stronger and stronger. So we'll say that we've purchased a few of these guys, and as you've purchased them, new cards come out into the market, of course. I didn't shuffle this very well at all, but that's okay. You get the point.
Yeah.
And so now, once you have cards in your deck that you've purchased that are the cards you can fight with, when you draw your new hand, you're going to fight with the other players over locations. And that's really the key that makes High Command a different sort of experience than other deck building games. So if we're playing against one other person, we would have 2 locations out here. And so we could fight for either of these locations against our opponent. So to play the cards that we've already purchased, we'll just look at what the purchase cost is, pay the correct amount of resources by discarding them, and put that card out to the location. And
so when you pick them up from the market,
they go to the discard.
They go to the discard. Now, what do you pay? Are you paying the purchase cost then? So you have to pay it twice, basically?
Yes.
Okay.
And then if this card gets destroyed, it goes back to the discard.
And then you have to play it again.
Yeah.
Oh, so every time, so you buy it, and then you also have to pay for it to play it.
Right. Each time you play it. And we've got varying costs. Like the cost of purchase can be anywhere from 1 to 10.
Okay.
So depending on how strong it is, what its abilities are, it varies a lot how much you're going to be paying each time you play it. One of the twists, though, is that you can also play cards straight from your reserves.
Okay.
If you pay the rush cost, and we can see here, this guy only costs 1 to purchase, to put in your deck or to play from your hand.
Yeah.
But you could pay a premium, pay 4 command, and rush him straight out to a location.
Okay.
And when you have, at the start of your turn, 2 or more cards more than any opponent, you take the location.
Okay.
So the locations are worth a whole lot of victory points. This one's worth 7.
Yep.
That one's worth 5, plus you get bonus victory points if
Okay.
you meet its special conditions. And you do also get a few points, like 1 victory point here and there on some of these cards, or even 2 on occasion for the cards that you buy. Because you
Okay.
are using resources to build up your army as well as to take over the locations.
Now, when does the game end? When you conquer a certain amount of locations?
That would be one way to do it. What we have, though, is the last thing that we need to talk about. This is the Winds of War deck. You can see it has a different back than any of the other cards. These cards all, since you can purchase them or capture them, even the locations can be captured, and so they have the same card back. You then can use their resources. But the one distinct card back is for the Winds of War. Each turn, we're going to flip over one of these cards, and the ones that start out at the beginning of the game say early on them.
Okay.
And so there's going to be 5 early cards. So 5 turns in, we'll get through the early phase of our war.
Okay.
And each of them tells you something, like they make a card a little cheaper, or they prevent you from using that rush ability to put them out without paying for them from your hand or putting them into your discard. Various things. But then we get to the mid-war, and so we know there's going to be 5 turns in the mid-war. And then the late war cards, one of them ends the game.
Okay.
One of those 5. So the game will be from 10 to 14 turns long.
Okay.
Because the 11th through 15th card, one of those is going to end the game. So it has a aspect of unpredictability. Sometimes the games go a bit longer than others. Should you play fast? Should you try and get locations as quick as you can? Should you build up a stronger army and then try and dominate the board? It's also very different when you play with 2 people versus 4 people, because you can play multiplayer. And then, of course, these factions can be played against Warmachine High Command factions, or Horde's High Command factions. If your buddy owns a different set, you can play against each other just fine.
Okay, cool. How long does it normally take?
So a 2-player game for veterans of the game usually takes about 40 minutes or so.
Okay.
If you have a 4-player game, it's going to take a bit longer.
Okay.
One of the things that's also unique about the game is that while it's a great out-of-the-box deck building game, and you've got a lot of versatility with the different colors and the different warcasters, you also have expansion content now.
Yeah.
And one of the things we've seen over the past year releasing more of the expansion content is bringing in more of the hardcore LCG guys who don't just want like a deck building game, kitchen table sort of experience. They want to be planning and scheming and making the perfect deck, tuning their reinforcements. So with the expansion cards, you can change what's in your reinforcement deck. You keep the same colors, 12 of each color, but you can trade cards out for either thinking more towards the long game or thinking more towards an early rush, or trying to get more VPs in that you buy and not really using the location attacks as much as some decks do, or focusing strictly on locations, being as efficient as possible. So a lot of different options, and the more expansion packs we've released, the more we've seen the diehard strategy guys really dig into that and enjoy it.
So each kind of faction pack has its own expansion packs.
Yep.
So High Command, Faith and Fortune has an expansion pack, and the others ones have. Okay.
Yeah, we're pre-releasing the Faith and Fortune expansion pack at Gen Con, so the people who like that customization can jump in right away.
Cool.
It'll have stuff for all 4 of the factions in here.
Okay. And what's the expansion pack called?
It's called Escalating Conflict.
Escalating. So High Command, Faith and Fortune, Escalating Conflict.
You got it.
Got it.
It's a bit of a mouthful, but you got it all
and
right.
I left off the Warmachine too.
Yep.
So it could have even been more.
Now, we call it Faith and Fortune because the 4 factions in here are very faith-based or fortune-based.
Mm-hmm.
2 of them are religions. The Retribution of Syra is trying to protect their goddess, and they do so by killing all the people who use magic. So
Okay.
that's their plan. And then the Convergence of Cirrus is the other one. That's the one we have out here. They worship the Maiden of Gears, Cirrus, and so they're trying to build the greatest machine ever. So I like them a lot. That fits me really well. And then the Fortune factions, we've got the Highborn Covenant, who are mercenaries and freedom fighters trying to retake a conquered land.
Okay.
And the 4-Star Syndicate are a bunch of pirates and cutthroats. They're the dirty ones. They'll do whatever it takes for coin.
Cool. So each faction has its own personality, and not
Absolutely.
only in the backstory, but also in how the flavor and that will.
This
mesh
one
into-
feels like a machine.
Okay.
You're playing cards down, and then other things let you pick them up, and then put them somewhere else, and it's all got all these moving parts. The Dirty Pirates, they've got a gambling mechanic where you show everyone what the top card is, and depending on what it is, it'll have a different effect or
Oh,
a stronger
wow.
ability, because they're gamblers. So yeah, a lot of personality, a lot of fun, and the intro games have been going great. People have really been getting into it, so
Cool.
I'm happy to see that.
Well, thank you for showing us the game.
Absolutely. Thanks for interviewing me.
No
It's
problem.
been fun.
Have a good day.
Take care.